It was hailed as the meeting of the century. The world was glued to the TV as U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong Un met and shook hands for the first time at the Singapore summit on June 12. There had been many obstacles along the way in bringing the two men together, not least the vast geological distance and political differences between the two countries. South Korean President Moon Jae-in is credited for playing a key role as the mediator between his American and North Korean counterparts. Another name has become unwittingly relevant in the latest political saga, and that is former NBA star Dennis Rodman. Partner to his Pyongyang road trips is Dr. Terwilliger, professor at Columbia University. How did their stories cross paths with the latest political blockbuster? The world held its breath and watched as the first sitting leaders of North Korea and the U.S. walked towards each other and shook hands for the first time on June 12. Say what you will about the outcome of the summit, there's no denying that the handshake, the moment, was truly historic in every sense of the word. And the moment was especially moving and even personal for the two gentlemen we're about to meet. I am joined now by former NBA star Dennis Rodman and Professor Joseph Terwilliger of Columbia University. Welcome to our program. Welcome to South Korea too. I understand for you, Dennis, it's your first time to South Korea. You've been to North Korea a number of times before. And I know you get a hero's welcome when you visit North Korea, especially because you're there to see the supreme leader of the country. How has the reception been like in this side of the border?
Well, it's a little different because I think that people have never seen me before. And being this size and yay color, it's kind of different. But the reception's been very well. I mean, the people have been very cordial. It's not surprising how the culture here in South Korea is very unique with a lot of other cultures in Asia. So, in particular, you know, even North Korea, the people are the same. They're polite and they're generous when they speak to you. They're not rude. They're very direct, and hey, you know, I love going there. I love coming here. I love going everywhere in the world, as long as we respect. So it's a good deal.
All right. Now, first things first, we have to talk about the summit.
Talk about that again, huh?
Yes. What was going through your mind as you watched these two men that you've come to know pretty well meet for the first time in a historic moment?
Well, I can't say that I was surprised. When you live the lifestyle and for so long, you're so used to seeing certain things in the world come together. And for me, it was more like it was just a matter of time for me to see that happen. But I think it was all about the people's views and opinions, what was going, the outtake of the meeting. And that was what I was waiting on for the people to maybe lash out, maybe to have some type of angry comments about why they're doing it now than earlier in our life. But you know, there's always opportunities to make amends for things we've done bad things in the past. So I think that since we are living going on to the 21st century, I think things have to change. You know, I think a lot of people on this planet are really afraid of change, especially when they're accustomed to certain usual contents of their lives. But, you know, life goes on, life moves on, and people have to open their minds and their ears and try to delegate how they're going to respond and how they're going to live life now because the two leaders met.
It's interesting how for you it was a matter of time, not whether it'll happen, but just when it'll happen, and that you believed in it. And we will talk about that a little bit later. But I'll turn to you, Professor. In a recent survey by Reuters, more than half of the American people supported the summit. And of course, there was a lot of hope there is a lot of hope, and there is also at the same time a lot of skepticism, and the scale is leaning a little bit towards more towards skepticism. What do you think the American public, how do you think they're perceiving this summit and the outcome of it?
Well, I mean, there's no way that you can see these two men getting together and starting to talk about peace as a bad thing for the world. A lot of people out there really have almost a pathological hatred of the president. And for them, it's sort of like anything he does is bad. It's like before the summit, they were saying it would be really bad if he got too many specifics into this agreement without consulting professional diplomats.
You mean
now,
President Trump?
President Trump, yeah. And now they're suggesting that, well, the summit declaration isn't very good because it doesn't have any specifics. You know, so it's sort of like whatever he did, there's going to be critics of it. But it seems to me that anything you do to start talking to people is better, because you can never work out your problems if you don't have a voice, right? You influence people by having a presence on the ground, by interacting with them, by changing how they feel about us.
Right.
I mean, you know, I just look at this guy, you know, when he went over to Korea the first time, I was teaching in Pyongyang University of Science and Technology, and my students came to me and they said, who is this guy, this basketball player, Dennis Rodman? They said, we saw him saying nice things about our country and embracing our leader, and we have to reconsider some of our stereotypes about Americans. And that's what it's about. You get together, you talk to each other, then you get to know each other, and then you can change something.
Communication is
yeah.
key.
And without it, you got nothing.
Right. So many of us were surprised to see that you had flown over to Singapore where the summit took place. Were you contacted by the Trump people, or were you even, or maybe by the North Koreans to come and give a pep talk? Did you meet Kim Jong Un ahead or even after the summit?
No, we wasn't asked to come. Obviously, a lot of people was kind of, well, Dennis, are you going? Are you going to be in the meeting? Thank you for doing what you did and try to create peace around the world. And the more closer that the summit became, I think a lot of people was really leaning towards Dennis. Wow, you did a great thing. Wow, thank you. In the beginning, it wasn't like that. But we weathered the storm, and we went through some tough changes and tough times. But as the summer was coming as close as the summer was coming, we decided to, listen, why not? It would be really, really unfitting for us not to be there.
Right.
Not to be there. So us and Popcorn gave us opportunity to go over there and supported us like they've been doing for the last couple of years. And it was fitting that I should have been there, just because I think that I fought for 5 years. We fought for 5 years just to have some type of common ground as far as like sports. It never was about politics. It never was, but people started to sway in that direction. The more times I was going there, they were saying, well, can you help us? Can you get these two guys together? Can you try to talk to him about why is he such a dictator? Why is he such a ruthless leader and stuff like that? And the more I kept trying to convey to them that he's not that type of guy to me. But people tried to change that whole perception about my comments and saying like, you don't know who he is. He's this, he's that. He killed people. He's laboring people. He's starving people. And I was trying to curve that conversation to a positive, and saying that I didn't see that part. I see everyday life. I see when I see poverty. I see hunger. I see certain things that we have in America and around the world. But for some reason, they have picked North Korea to be this damnation country where, okay, great, if whatever you say about them, we're not going to believe it. And so I switched the conversation towards, have you ever been there? Have you ever been there and seen and watched the culture and watched how they live and watched the activity of the people? And people say, well, you got a point there. I said, okay, great. Until you see it for your own eyes, I think you can't have no judgment of what's going on. So you have to take my word for it because I've seen it.
Right.
It's especially seeing them as human beings, and instead of as robots or something the way people perceive them in the West. And they're just as human as everybody else. They care about their kids getting into school, doing their homework. I hear friends of mine in North Korea complaining their kids don't do their homework and they run away smoking behind the schoolyard, just like American kids. It's insane, you know?
Right. No,
all
but
people care about is life.
I did watch the interview that you gave after the handshake, and where you got a little emotional.
It was hot.
It was hot,
sweat.
yes.
This was
I'm
sweat.
sure.
This
It
is
was
all
sweat.
sweat. It's all
You
sweat,
had-
you know.
You had a lot of sweat coming out of your eyes. Honestly, I got a little bit emotional and teary-eyed myself because I could see how genuine you felt about the issue and how frustrated you must have been. And that part really, I think I struck a common chord.
Oh yeah, it was just bad because I think that when Trump said to the American people, well, Dennis Rodman must have been high or drunk or on some type of substance, because I never said I want to go to North Korea. And he's probably right about the, being under the influence of alcohol, yes, but the other part, no. The other part, no. But, but for me, it came full circle. The fact that I made a mistake by saying that about 4 years ago, but it's amazing how he's now talking about, I'm going over to North Korea. So it plays in, it kind of came back into my hands. It's okay, you know what? I probably said something out of character, but you're saying it and bringing it back and making it a positive now. So when I said it, it was negative, but when you say it, oh Lord, it's a whole different conversation, But I guess we was just like three guys facing, like a jury and being tried for like, well, you guys don't know what you guys are doing. We would not permit this, and until someone stepped up to the plate and said, okay, great. So I kept talking about it. I kept saying, it's going to happen. It is going to happen. Watch, it's going to happen this year. It's happening. So Donald Trump stepped up to the plate and said, okay, great. He spoke the first words and said he wants to have a meeting. It went back and forth. But it was just one of those emotional things where I felt vindicated. The fact that,
a moment of redemption
and stuff like that. And I was trying to tell everyone in the world that the fact that I don't want, like you said earlier, I didn't want people to feel sorry for me. It wasn't about that. It was about the fact that I tried so much to tell people and try to explain to people, and people kept just damnation me. No, you're wrong. You know what you're doing. And I was getting so many opportunities to keep speaking about North Korea. So that really kind of hurt me back then. And then when it came up and I saw that, I said, wow, that just pretty much got me really choked up, because I said, wow, it actually happened. And I knew it was going to happen. And people were like, damn, he's right. So it's like, that put a smile on my face afterwards. And it's you can say, most people say it's a miracle that this really happened. But now people are really having a skepticism where, why is this really happening? They want to have some negative things to think of, to talk about this. And they're waiting for some negativity to come out of here in the next couple of weeks, couple of months, a couple of years.
Sure.
And so we're going to have to wait and see. But right now, everything's smooth sailing.
Do you think Donald Trump, he's been touting his own horn about how he deserves, or how other people say he deserves, the Nobel Peace Prize for this. If anything, maybe you're the one who planted the seed for peace. So maybe you deserve a little bit of credit for that as well. Do you think Donald Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize?
Well, I don't think he can say, okay, great, just because I met the leader of North Korea and we made peace and stuff like that, that deserve a Nobel Peace Prize, I give him
it's more than Obama did.
Well, pretty much. but I just think that he's, everyone knows Donald Trump loves power. He loves to be in control. And that's what they say about Kim Jong Un, about he loves power and he loves to do this, he loves to do that. But it's funny to really analyze that and maybe dissect it a little bit. The fact that people say, well, Kim Jong Un is an awful, evil, diabolical individual. And I was saying, it hit me the other day. I said, how is this guy so evil? He just took power maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I said, he didn't create all this. He didn't create none of this. He just got inherited to it. Right. And so he got inherited to it from his family, but he didn't do all this. This has been land stoned for years. you know, and people have been so afraid of North Korea, and now since his father has died, now they put everything is on his shoulders. So basically, they think that he's just creating all this new avenue of like destruction, and it is not true. And,
yeah. I mean, like when you go there in the last 5 years, I've been going every 3 months or so, and you see enormous change in the way people approach foreigners, the way the economy is actually booming despite increasing sanctions. There's just more electricity. People have individual solar panels in their apartments now to power things. There's so much more economic activity. And it's really, there's obviously signs of change, you know? And I think that that's important, like you said.
Right.
As to the Nobel Peace Prize, I mean, we support Trump. We think he's done a great job going out there. It's a big step that people said no one would ever do, and I think that's really important. Dennis has done a lot as well, most of which people will never know about the details of, and that's probably the way it should be. Right. And like his hat says, you know, be humble.
Be humble.
You know, it's like don't, you know, we don't advocate for him to receive that, but we want to say that he did do a lot.
He did do a lot.
More than people will ever know.
And speaking, going back to Kim Jong Un, and you know how you talked about, I think it kind of hit the nail on the head when you said he inherited this. He didn't create this, but he was born with a silver spoon, and that silver spoon just happens to be kind of a bad one, maybe. So whether he wants to change that and open his world and his country to the outside world and adopt or just integrate with the international community, that remains to be seen. You know both Trump and Kim Jong Un. Do you think, how is the compatibility there? Do you see any chemistry building in the months or years to come?
Well, I think he probably answers this question better than I can, you know, because since I'm kind of close to both of the guys, I think for Trump, I think he needs to really be really serious about being as a true word of his word. And I think that North Korean people, I think that the country will realize that the fact that when you actually do anything that's going to symbolize something that's going to be negative, all of a sudden now they're going to take it as a whoa, wait, we thought this is like you know, we're going to have peace and everything's going to come together as one. And I think that he needs to take this as a serious thought that, you know, the country just won't trust. You know, and I think that Kim Jong Un would love to see someone like Trump to abide by some trust and by stick to his word that things are going to change and try to help the country in much ways that we can and the world. And so I just hope that Trump and Kim Jong Un can really see through all the negative things that's happened over the past decades of negativity and war and stuff like that, and try to move forward to try to create something new for, you know, for both sides of the countries.
It's really like right now, it's just kind of a perfect storm. You have Trump, who's an unorthodox president. He's a businessman, and he doesn't care about protocol and diplomatic protocol, and that's part of why he's able to go and do something like this, right? Only Nixon could go to China, only Trump can go to North Korea, perhaps. But that's also together with President Moon, who's actually very open to engagement. You know, last year it wouldn't have been possible, but now it is. And you've got these two guys, both of whom kind of want change. And you have Kim Jong Un, who's maturing into power, growing into it, finally really getting to be in a position where he can do something about this and get out in the world and talk to people and maybe make a change. Now that they've shown they have a nuclear program, now they have some negotiating status. And all of that being done before the Olympics, when it was pretty safe, nobody was going to bomb anybody before the Olympics, that gave a perfect opportunity with the Olympics in Korea, President Moon, President Trump, both of whom are essential ingredients to this, you know. So I think it's a perfect storm, and things can happen now, but you have to seize the moment and do something with it. And
right.
We believe President Moon will take the lead on this, you know, and Trump is certainly open to that. And just like the Koreans always say, these things have to be settled like 우리 민족끼리, right, within the Korean people themselves. And that's what's probably going to happen in the near future. We'll get rid of the missile threat, hopefully, and then you guys can work out things on your own now that you have the opportunity and the will from both sides.
Right. I was going to bring President Moon Jae-in into the conversation. You conveniently did it for me. And how do you think he can mediate and facilitate the conversation between these two men, Trump and Kim?
I just like the fact that, you know, it was amazing how it happened at the Winter Games. Yeah. And I've always said, I said, if anything can solve or maybe calm things down or maybe, put some, something like a smooth slate on something, it's always sports.
Sports.
It's always sports. It makes everyone gets happy. No matter what's going on in the world, people always want to compete.
Right.
And I think that sometimes when you look at the governments and the two nations and the two countries between Americans and North Korea, it's always they're competing. About not about people to people or president to president. It's always about war. It's all about that. But the most common ground to try to invade with any other countries or any leader, it's more you have to get trust first. And sports and music is the best way to do it because it's more like a soothing. It's like getting a massage, and you listen to the ocean. You listen to the sounds of the ocean and stuff like that. It makes you feel so relaxed and so at ease. And I think that was so perfect how they came together at the Winter Olympics.
And the Olympics always were like that, right? Even in ancient Greece, you had Athens and Sparta who were fighting wars with each other, coming together to play games.
Right.
So if you can play with each other, why can't you talk to each other, and why can't you work things out? If you don't have interaction, it's going to continue the way it is.
So let's go back to where it all began, or your first meeting with Kim Jong Un. Yeah, I mean, you've been famous all your life. You took your fame to another level, a whole new level when you became friends with Kim Jong Un. How did that come about? What was your first impression? I'm sure you've been asked this question a number of times.
Right? Trying to come up with different answers. It's difficult, but it was amazing. It was amazing that when we got the opportunity to come over to North Korea, I didn't have any expectation. I didn't even know him. I didn't know why I was going to North Korea. And everyone said, "You're going to this bad place. Then you shouldn't go. You shouldn't go." I said, "Why not?" I didn't read up on the history of North Korea. I just wanted to go. I thought it was another paid gig. Go shoot some basketball, shake some hands, take some pictures and stuff like that. Well, I didn't know any of what was going to happen when I got off the plane. That was something totally different. I thought I was the president. I thought I was the god of love.
Did you get the whole car parade?
Oh yeah, I got everything. I got the whole red carpet. All the leaders came out, and I was wondering, I said, "Why is all these people on the tarmac?" I'm like, "Wow, okay, great." Because I thought they was waiting for someone else. So all the crazy, all the basketball players coming. And I'm like, "Wow, okay, great." Shake hands. We go inside. We sit down, and they asked me to, "You have to sit right here." I said, "Okay, I'll sit right here." And lo and behold, I didn't know that the fact that when the leader comes in, he sits right there. They want me to sit right in the middle, and everybody's sitting around, the square table. I'm like, wow, you got people over there, over here. I'm like, wow, what's going on? Right? I was trying to figure it out. Then once I met him, we was playing a basketball game with the Harlem Globetrotters, and I was supposed to play with those guys, and I chose not to play the game. So I sat down in a somewhat of a jacket, sweatpants, tennis shoes, whole get up. So I was sitting on the bench, and some people came down from the stands, and all these guys in black and white. They said, "Would you come with us?" And I'm thinking, like, something's wrong. That's what I do. What did I do that's wrong? He said, "No, just come with us. Come with us. They want you to come sit with them." And so I walked up in the audience, went to a table, looked at the game. I was sitting there. I was wondering why I was sitting there, by myself. And next thing you know, I saw all these people stand up and start clapping. I mean, I'm like, what are these people clapping for? I thought it was for me. I thought it was for me. And I just happened to look over to my left, and like this small guy comes up in his, I think, brown or black suit, the suit he always wear. Right. And he's waving. I said, "Who is this guy?" I said, "Who's this guy here?" Everybody's like, all like crying and clapping and da. He's walking down, and then all of a sudden he comes stand beside me, and he's waving and all this, and people are just like throwing themselves at him. And I'm like, I just kept asking, "Who is this person? Who is this guy?" And
you had no idea.
I had no idea who this person was. Okay. And one of the interpreters said, "Dennis, that's a leader." I said, "What do you mean leader? Like the president?" He said, "Yeah, that's our leader, the marshal." I said, all right. Still didn't know who he was. You know, I know it's someone important, but I said, you know, but he said, no, you don't understand. I said, no, I do not understand. So, you know, everybody's standing, I'm sitting down like this. Everybody's standing. Like, so I tried to stand up. He politely just did this to me. He said,
stay seated. You're okay.
You're okay. So as the game was going on, he happened to lean over to me and ask me, said, Dennis, it's a pleasure to meet you. But he didn't say, he said it in Korean.
He said it in
Korean. And the interpreter right here, he said, Dennis, he's happy to see you. I'm like,
and said, who are you?
Yeah, I said, like I said, what? I was tripping, right? And he said, well, and I said, well, tell him thank you. I'm glad to be here, trying to be nice. So, and the whole time he kept talking to me. And he was talking about the game of basketball. And he kept saying, like, you know, I love American basketball. I love the Chicago Bulls. Wow. I love the Bulls, Chicago. I love Michael, Scotty, you, I said, okay. That's how we started having a conversation because of basketball.
Sure.
He's such a big fan of it. And the whole game, we just talked about that. We started talking about, you know, life and family and stuff like that, and the people. And I just got to the part, I got so comfortable talking to him. I said, wow, why do these people do that for you? You know, I said, why do they stand up for you? He couldn't answer me. He said,
what did he say?
He really didn't say anything. He's like, well, I don't know, what could he say? You know, so, but we never talked about, you know, about politics. Never talked about that. We never talked about the history of North Korea. We never did that, not once. The first time I met him, so it was cool because he was happy, and we just hit it off at day one.
I see. No, so and I really don't want to pry or try
yeah, you're gonna do it anyway.
Yeah, right.
But I will anyway. And I don't want to be intrusive, but I mean, what about his personal life or personal side, his family side, I suppose, can you share with the world? I mean, because no one knows him like you know him. And that's where a lot of confusion and hatred and opposition comes from, because people don't know him as a person.
Well, I'm not going to share too much of his personal life because that's not my it's not my business, you know.
Sure.
If he wants anyone to know about his personal life, I think he would come out and say that. I respect his privacy. I respect his wishes as far as like when he said, Dennis, you know, we love you. We take care of you, protect you, but we don't want you to get involved in none of the issues that's going on. That's what the interpreter said. So I just think that people don't want to see him as a great leader as far as for people. I think they want to see him as a negative, just what would you call him?
Yeah, I mean, they see the sort of caricature that we've had in the news. But I mean, I thought it was interesting when Jaein met with Kim and they hugged each other and all of this, and that's the way he was with us all the time. You know, he hugged all of us, and Dennis held his baby, you know, and I mean, he's just very open, very friendly with us. And we said that to the world, and everyone's like, oh, you guys must be, you know, apologists or somehow saying bad things about him. But that's exactly what you've all seen now on TV. When Jaein saw it and Trump saw it, and he's been very friendly and very physical, you know, very Korean, you know, very, you know, natural Korean, and very warm, very good, hospitable host, you know. Right.
So how do you reconcile that? I mean, as someone who knows both sides, I mean, I don't know his warmth and all of the fuzzy side. Yeah. But you do. So in your mind, politics aside, everything aside, how do you reconcile that? You think, oh, he's putting on a show, he just wants to be a tough guy, but he's actually a nice guy type of thing? I mean, I want to know how you process it in your heads.
Well, I think for everybody, I mean, you know, I mean, again, like Dennis was saying, a lot of this has to do with the fact that when he was a very young man, he became in charge of this system, and the system in North Korea is very characterized by inertia. Like, it's very hard to change anything, even if you wanted to. So if you assume, for example, that you suddenly became the leader of a country like that, how do you make changes? How can you open things up when you have an entire group of people around you who are old, have been established, who are from the previous administration, and really don't want anything to change? It's like, you know, you always have these battles within every country. And it's not like it's one man rule in any country, you know? So I think, especially at the beginning, you don't give the kid the keys to the car and tell him to go drive. You slowly move things forward and things like that. So I think, like Dennis was trying to say before, a lot of the things that are going on in the country, he doesn't have that much control over at the beginning anyway, and it's slowly changing. And there have been some changes, to be sure. The economy is opening. He's shown a very interest in, I guess as he told Xi Jinping, he wants the Vietnam model and all these things for trying to slowly open things up. But I think it's a very hard thing to do in a system like that when the people are used to this way as well. I mean, look at the way the defectors have trouble here adjusting to life suddenly when they're outside of that system. So it's like, yeah, there's a lot of things that, I mean, I'm a libertarian. I like freedom all the time. But you can't have that immediately after a system like that. Even if you wanted to, it would be a disaster. You know, it would be like what you have here with 10,000 defectors, only it would be 20 million, you know? So I think, you know, you can't expect radical change fast from anyone. And I think he does show signs of wanting to modernize.
Right. I mean, he did take a tour around Singapore that
selfie.
one evening and got the superstar treatment.
Yeah.
Right. And you gave Kim Jong Un a copy of The Art of the Deal.
And 8 other of Trump's books in Korean.
Oh, really?
I found all the Korean editions and we
like
gave
a collection of those, a series.
Yeah.
What were you trying to achieve by doing that?
Well, I wasn't really trying to achieve anything. I just thought that it would be a great avenue for him to understand about Trump. I think he really didn't know too much about Trump. You know, I think that he was, I think, pretty much more fascinated by anything.
Okay.
And Dennis talked about, he asked about Trump on your first visit, even in 2013, because Dennis was his friend. And so they've been talking about this.
This is after he was, no, before he was elected.
Way before.
He was interested in Trump.
Yeah.
Way before he was elected.
And when Dennis came back from Korea, Trump was the first guy that wanted to hear about it back in 2013. He said, this is wonderful. Anything you do to talk to them is better than shooting at them.
Wow.
That was Trump in 2013. So, you know, when Trump got nominated or announced his candidacy, we immediately said, okay, if Trump gets elected, he's going to go talk to Kim and try to make peace, because that's what he told us.
You guys saw it all along.
Well, I mean, Trump has been saying this since the 90s.
Wow.
In the 90s, he was critical when people weren't talking to them and were just trying to, you know, use all the sanctions and everything else. And he said, look, why don't you go talk to them? It doesn't cost you anything to have a conversation. And that's Trump, you know, and that's why, you know, the Koreans are obviously happy with President Trump being elected despite all the rhetoric. And the rhetoric is something they certainly understand, because if you read their news, it sounds like professional wrestling, just like Trump sounds like that. And Trump, after all, is in the Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, so, you know, they speak the same language.
Now, you two and the third mysterious man over there is an interesting trio, a basketball player, a genetics professor. How did this, and you guys are traveling to North Korea together, how did this all come about?
Well, after he went there the first time, I saw there was a charity auction to play horse with him, basketball.
Okay.
And so I put down money and paid $2,500 and got the chance to play horse with him. And we talked about Korea because I was going there in the summer, and they asked if I could help them go back because he wanted to go back. He was invited back, but they didn't know how. And since I had an ongoing relationship with the UN mission in New York and everything, we were able to arrange everything.
Now you teach at you used to, at the Pyongyang University of Science and Technology.
Yeah, I mean, well, now I can't because we have a passport ban and Americans aren't allowed to go there, but I've taught there every year since 2013 for a couple times a year, for a couple of weeks each time. I teach evolutionary biology, human genetics, and it's great. The students are wonderful. They're, you know, really, you know, it's a great opportunity to get Americans and Koreans together. I understand that this university
teaches market economy and like
computer science and agriculture and life science.
Okay, and how do the students react to the concept of market economy?
They all want to learn about it. I mean, North Korea is changing fast. I mean, all the students, a lot of them say they want to be a CEO. You know, there's a lot of startup companies associated with ministries and a lot of sort of entrepreneurship. And you notice over the last several years, you also see increasing branding. It's like you go to the store. It used to be just like beer or this kind of candy. Now there's all different labeling, different brand recognition. And so they're really adopting these sort of things, which is essential to how their economy has been able to develop despite the crippling sanctions. So I think that there's a lot of interest in it. And they're always telling us they would love to expand cooperation in education, economics, science, you know, sports, music, things that are not political.
When you talk with Kim Jong Un, I'm sure you don't talk about politics because that's always difficult, and you know you don't just among two people or three people, you just don't talk about. Well, it's one of those things you don't want to go to that one area.
Politics and religion always make enemies, right?
Right. Now, had you met Kim Jong Un in Singapore by chance, what would you have said to him?
I think the first thing would have happened, it would have been a big hug.
Yeah.
Shut me straight off the bat.
He hugs everyone.
He hugs everybody. So maybe a big hug, you know.
He's a hugger.
You know, just smiles all over the place. Yeah. And I mean, when I think people don't remember this, when I went and brought my own basketball team to North Korea, and a lot of people gave me a lot of, oh my God.
That's an understatement.
That's an understatement. So I put this basketball team together, and I promised him that I was going to bring a basketball team. And I was under influence at that time too when I said that statement. You know,
it was a lot of pressure he was under. I mean, he was getting criticism from everybody in the world over stuff he didn't even understand. He's like, "Well, I don't understand what this is all about. Why are you mad at me? I just want to play a game." So
we put this game together, and his birthday was coming up pretty soon, and I said, "Okay, great. You know, because it's your birthday, I'm gonna do something special for you. I said, I'm gonna bring a basketball team to North Korea. And I'm gonna bring a bunch of professional athletes." He just lit up. He lit up and said, "Oh, you gonna really do that? You gonna do that for me on my birthday?" I said, "Yeah." I mean, I was trying to talk to him. He wasn't looking at me. So I was like, "Oh," because you know I just said something really bad. And he said, "Oh my God, that's great, that's awesome," and this like that. So he walked out in the other room. I said, "Well, I really messed up, didn't I?" No. I said, "Really messed up, didn't I?" I'm like, "Wow, what did I say?" He said, "No, don't worry about it, don't worry about it." I said, how am I supposed to get 12 basketball players delivered? Right. And I'm like, wow, man, what are we gonna do? So we just start butting heads and like, okay, great. When we get someone to sponsor this basketball tour, it'll be awesome. We can do it, we can do it. So we got a sponsor, and people don't realize the fact that when we got this all together, our whole purpose was not to make money. Right. Not to make money. We was in for the money. We was in for just to show appreciation. Yeah. And so we got 12 guys together, and we paid almost $600,000-700,000 to bring these basketball players and their families over. And I think when we got to the game, all the guys were so enamored and odd to see 15,000, 16,000 North Koreans in black and white, just sitting there wondering what's going to happen. So I came up with this great idea. I said, all right, let's stand. We stand with as a marshal stand up. Everybody stand, and we're on center court. North Korean team here, U.S. team over here. I'm in the middle, and no one knew that I was going to do this. No one knew I was going to do this. So he's standing up, everyone's standing. So I just came up with this wild idea to say something to him, personally to him. I said, to the marshal, to the leader of North Korea, I want to say something to you. And it just came out. It's like I said, "Happy birthday." So I was saying happy birthday to him, directly to him. And for the first 10 seconds, people didn't realize what was going on. Then all of a sudden, you start seeing people, they start singing, start clapping, and start singing with me.
Wow.
Start singing, and you start singing in North Korean, in that language. And so I was like, whoa. I just kept going, and he started clapping. He started there smiling. I said, wow. The next thing you know, then when the song was over, they all gave us a standing ovation. So I think that right there was the key moment for me, that this guy trusts me. And then after the game, he came in the locker room, and you see all the American players kind of emotional, because they said, "Wow, this is the guy people talked about," and they were so surprising how nice he was. He just came in smiling. He said, "Oh my God," he was more excited than they were. So so
he's a fan.
He's a fan. So he's like, and when we talked in the hall, he said, "Thank you. That's the first time anyone's ever kept their word."
American.
Kept the to him. And he said, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." He said, "You always welcome in my country, no matter what. You're a friend of mine, and you always be a friend." So, but that right there, we got really, really close after that because he actually trusts me.
Right. I think that's one part I remember from that interview as well.
Right.
When you said he trusted me, and because you delivered.
I delivered.
You
and
delivered.
he kept his word.
I kept his word. I kept my word.
You kept your word,
Right.
and to him that was important,
That was
especially because you were American,
Right.
an enemy from what they perceive, North
Right.
Korea perceives as an enemy country, but human to human, you kept your
I
word.
kept my word. So that was a big thing.
It proves you can have trust between Americans and Koreans, and I think that's huge. That's like what you need to get started. Because obviously our government, their government don't trust each other. Both sides have had a tense relationship full of broken promises, So maybe there's hope that it's possible, and he was an example.
Right. At the end of the day, it's about human to human, right? Nationality aside, race aside, gender aside, it's relationship between you and I and you and I, just personally, right?
Yep.
And you've shown that to him, and that's why he's opened up. Hopefully this time Trump was able to do that as well with Kim Jong Un and Kim Jong Un, vice versa. It's a start. It's a good start.
Over time, it takes time.
It takes time.
It takes time. At one point, do you think, I'm just trying to gauge how long it's going to take for the leaders of two arch rivals, if you will, to really begin to trust each other?
Well, like anything, it's going to take time. It's going to take time, no matter how you look at it. I mean, you just can't build, a city in one day. You just can't do that. You got to go brick by brick, stone to stone. I just think that right now, I think it's such an exciting event, and all the emotions are riding on this one summit. I think it'll take maybe a couple of years to really kind of confirm that the fact that we are having some type of really good positive energy between the two countries. And it's just the fact that people gonna have to start letting go of the negativity that was then. Now, he's trying to build something now for the future. That's the kind of thing it's gonna take, because once we see that they actually really mean what they say, it's gonna change the face of a lot of things. And he knows more than I do that when you empower it, when you empower with a lot of things on your plate, it's very difficult to really put a lot of things aside and just say, okay, we're just gonna focus on this now and forget everything else. So it's very difficult to just concentrate on one thing and still try to have some type of good common ground with each other. So it's like it's gonna take probably 2 or 3, maybe 2 years for everything to be,
Yeah, I mean, President Trump clearly would like to make progress and move fast because he wants to get this done while he's president.
Right.
So,
Because one of the big problems, like the North Koreans always say, is like, we're always the same, but you guys change every 4 years. So, we can make an agreement with one president and then the next president doesn't like it and it's gone. And that's how, like the Iran deal, right? Obama made the Iran deal, Trump got rid of it.
Right.
Clinton made the keto deal, originally the agreed framework, and then Bush killed that. So they always know that it's got to be done within the administration. Trump is, as I said, Trump and Moon provide a unique opportunity. It's a perfect storm. You got to do it now, seize the moment.
I know it's a little bit difficult for you to talk about, but maybe when you were getting all the criticism, the death threats you mentioned, I was surprised because I was like, who would threaten to kill him? Oh, for what? But while you were going through that, weathering the storm, were you able to keep on believing in this? What kept you?
Just because of him, because we all talk to him, and we really sincerely believe that the fact that he really wants to be a part of the world. And for me, and I kept saying, once all the negative things I got when I was going back, it was more like I kept asking him, I said, Are we going back? Are we going back? Are we going back? And so I just, because I wanted to prove to people that what I did was a great thing. But at that time it wasn't appropriate because of how things was turning about. We couldn't go back because of that. But I just wanted to go back so badly just to prove people wrong. And maybe that was a look at the Irish stuff like that. It came now, then later. But it's like, it's just I just had it in my heart that it was going to happen, and I kept saying it. And I stood right there on the steps. I said, the doors are going to open sooner than later. Yeah. And people didn't give that a second. That people, oh, you just whatever. And then all of a sudden, when they saw the crack, they said, oh, maybe he is saying something that's significant. But it got so washed away when it actually started to happen. It went from then it's saying this to Trump saying, I'm gonna go over there. And all of a sudden it went from what I said for years was thrown to the side. Now Trump said it, it's all Trump. Trump did it.
No, you planted the seed.
I said Trump did it, but and I kept telling people, I said,
well, Trump did do it. Trump had the courage to do it as the president, and that's what matters. We went over there as private citizens. Yep. And I think what's really important is that one of the things that the North Koreans really respect about Dennis and us is that we've always been consistent. We say the same things no matter what the politics are. When it hurts us, we say it. When it's to our benefit, we say it. But they respect honesty, because they don't get that much, especially from their school. Maybe they don't give it that often either. But with us, they've given it. We've given it back, and he has to keep doing that, and that's why they love him.
So, and the one thing I've said, and Vogue can attest to this, as I kept saying to people, I said, I do not care. I said in the Obama administration, I said, I don't care who takes the credit. Yep. Just talk to the guy. Yep. I kept saying it over and over. Obama just gave me the deaf ear. I said, all right, great, it's okay, cool. Then when Trump came for it, I said the same thing. Yep. Just talk to him. He just want to talk. Yep. I don't care if it's, hi, what's going on? Okay, yep. Can we, da-da-da. You can hate each other all you want, but just talk to them. That's all they want.
And listen to them.
Just listen to them. So basically, it went on deaf ear, but then all of a sudden things started to change. Things started to really change rapidly, and Trump just threw it out there, and boom, okay, great, and then it all happened, and pretty much, like I said, it was just a blessing just to be at the summit, and for people to say, okay, great, you deserve this, Dennis, because you actually started to wield the role.
You did.
Redemption.
Yeah,
so,
it's a time of redemption
but it's not about me. It's the fact that, like I said, I respect the fact that their culture. And I'm always respect my culture in America, so that's my first priority. But they have done so much for me and my friends here, and the fact that why not share some love to them too?
Exactly. The bottom line is, I think, what's been missing from all these discussions for years, and what's basic to every human relationship, is trust, empathy, and respect. Right. And you show that to someone, they'll show it back to you. It's like, yeah, I may not agree with you, but I want to understand your perspective. I want to think, why do you feel that way? It doesn't matter if it's a government or whoever, and don't judge them. Everyone tells them, don't do this. Like, if you go up to someone and say, immediately before you even know them, start saying, you're fat, you should stop eating so much, or you should stop smoking, you should stop drinking. No one's going to listen to you. When you lecture them, you build a relationship, you get close to each other, then you tell them what's wrong with them, And nobody does it. They're judged, and they're not treated with respect, and no one tries to understand their perspective.
Well, I would like to really, since I'm in South Korea, I would like to really talk to President Moon.
All right.
I would like to talk to him and ask him about the whole situation. What does he think about it?
Now let's end this on a high note. So
okay,
President Trump,
note.
he said he'll invite Kim Jong Un in the near future, foreseeable future, to the White House. Do you see this happening? And if he does come to the U.S., will you play a nice host as he did to you?
But, I look at it like this. I've said the fact that he wants to come to America, right? He wants to come to America. That's his dream, just come to America, right? I said now is the perfect time. And now since people are so fresh on their minds, he would be the most famous person on the planet. He would go down Fifth Avenue. He would go down to Times Square and just take selfies with everybody, stuff like that. And people don't realize what I'm saying, but it's actually true.
Like a rock star.
Like a rock star. Okay, like a rock star, right?
Sure.
And but it's like it'll be another historical moment. historical moments, stuff like that. So I'm looking forward to that because everything that people say in the media, as far as questions and stuff like that, and try to portray the fact that they said it first. No, I said it first. That he's going to come here, he's going to do this, he's going to do that.
And you're going to a Knicks game.
I'm going to take him to a Knicks game.
Wow.
And that's all he wants to do is go to New York to a Knicks game.
Yep.
So I wish they was better.
Yeah, well,
I wish it was good.
Maybe by the time he comes, they will be.
Yeah, okay.
I can picture him in the stadium.
Hopefully the Bulls
in the
will be in
US.
town.
That'll be good. That'll be a good game. The Bulls, right? So anyway, that's my whole thing about coming here in South Korea because I've been in the North, and I'm here, and people wonder why I'm here. I'm here just to get a feel for how the people here respect and how they are so willing to open to hear what Kim Jong Un have said, and your President Moon, and like I said, give it some time. Yeah. But I'd like to meet him, just ask him one thing.
Sure.
What is your take on Kim Jong Un? That's why I just want to ask him that question.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll look forward to the day you sit down with Moon Jae-in as well. Thank you, Dennis and Professor, for bringing us this far into the peace process. Thank you so much.
I've been doing a lot of interviews, so I would like to go and enjoy your city today.
Show some love.
I know I'm going to go out there and enjoy that because all I've been doing is interviews and
Sure. Do go out there and enjoy the city. Seoul's a beautiful city.
Where should he go?
To the N Tower to begin with. Yeah, lots of exciting.